Inner peace is so underrated these days. So underrated. It's like you can actually have peace from within. And it feels amazing. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stef Wild. Just call me Stef. And I am going to talk about, well, I was going to talk about self-growth, but while I was in the garden, I decided, inner peace is so underrated, because I was feeling so peaceful while picking flowers, and I was like, inner peace just feels so good. And I've been on a journey of inner peace. I just saw a rabbit hopping by. And I've been on a journey of getting inner peace, because that was something my friend Kyla Tussin, which we've done collaborations on this channel before. She's one of my best friends, and I just love her so much. She's such an incredible woman. She was running a, what are they called? Vision board workshop. And during that vision board workshop, by the way, she runs the best vision board workshops ever. Really profound, life-changing vision board workshops. And when I was doing this vision board workshop, during this vision board workshop, we're obviously cutting out a whole heap of things and images from magazines, and then we put it onto a canvas. And one of the things that I put down was inner peace, and I didn't know why I put it down, but this was after my breakup with my ex, and I put down inner peace along with so many other things that came true. But I didn't really know why I put down inner peace. I was just like, this is just something is being triggered in me when I think about this. Not triggered in a bad way, but something was just like pulling me towards putting this onto my vision board. And so I did, and throughout the time that I had the vision board, I would constantly look at it and just think, inner peace, inner peace. And I ended up going on a whole journey of discovering inner peace. And to me, inner peace, what it turned out to be was not having constant insistent thoughts in my head, negative thoughts in particular, or just thinking, constantly thinking, constantly feeling like I needed to be someone and do something. And obviously there are phases to this, and there's a lot of depth. If you've watched my previous video with my sister, then you will know that there are layers that you got to peel back. And there were many layers that I peeled back towards inner peace. One of the most profound things that I did that got rid of this constant thinking, was take time out for myself and also reconnect with my body. Because what I discovered later is, in our society, we're constantly thinking that it's all in the head, that logic trumps everything, and that your intelligence, the intelligence from your head, is what matters most. But what I discovered was that society actually has forgotten that the head and the body are one whole system. We've completely separated the mind and the body from each other, but they're all one whole system. And so many of us have numbed out from our bodies. So when I started doing tantric embodiment practices, practicing self-love and really being with myself, staying present with my body, it allowed me to get out of my head and into my body. And that's when all those incessant thoughts stopped. And I was able to listen to the wisdom of the body. And boy, the body has so much wisdom. It is so powerful. It's where intuition and feelings and emotions reside, and senses and our senses. And that delivers so much information on how we are supposed to live our lives according to what is really true to us, what is really true to our soul. So once I started getting out of my head and into my body, it was like a whole new perspective and a whole new discovery of what it meant to be human, what it means to be a woman as well. Because I then connected to my menstrual cycle, and that took me on a massive journey of discovering what it means to be a woman and just the power that we have in our menstrual cycle. And the freedom that we can experience once we connect to it and understand it and appreciate it and work with it. So, and the menstrual cycle has wisdom in itself. You know, nothing that our bodies do, I believe, is a mistake. It's all perfectly designed. And, you know, even if your experience... Falky, leave it. Don't chase the bunny. And even if, you know, I was one of these people that hated my body, and if you're one of these people that hates your body, or your body might not be the healthiest and you feel like it's working against you, I'm a firm believer that the body is actually always... The body has one purpose in life, and the purpose of the body is to help us live and thrive. And the body has its own language. So if we're not listening to the body's language, that's when we suffer. That's when we're disconnected from ourselves. That's when we tend to get a lot in our heads and think things through instead of just feeling what is right for us. Trying to make logical decisions instead of going with our intuition, and get off track from our truth. And I lost my train of thought just then. Body. God damn it. Okay, so just as a disclaimer, after my ayahuasca trauma, which you can view some videos of it in my previous videos, my memory, it's getting better, but sometimes I can lose my train of thought like crazy or forget words, and my vocabulary got so small after that. So I don't know what the ayahuasca did to my brain, but I feel like it's definitely slowly recovering. But sometimes I lose my train of thought, so I don't know where I was. I might need to rewatch this and come back to you. All right, I'm back, and I had to take notes because it was just not registering in my mind. Anyway. Okay, so back to body is sending you messages and body's language. So the body is always sending you messages, and the body is always trying to communicate with you. If you haven't learnt about the language of the body, then you're going to think that the messages that the body is sending you are out to hurt you, because it might show up in emotional pain, it might show up in physical pain, and you're like, holy shit, it sucks being in this body, I need to do something about it, and you try to scramble out of your body instead of actually sitting and listening to it and figuring out what it's trying to tell you. So the body is always trying to help us live and thrive and experience this reality, experience life to the fullest. And it's really a matter of listening to it. So that's what I really believe in. And the more I study the body, the more fascinating it gets. So let's go back to inner peace. So when we connect to the body and listen to it, and learn about it and understand it, it can help us reach that beautiful inner peace, because our body wants us to live an incredible life. Our body wants to feel at ease. And one thing, after doing the embodiment practices, the tantric embodiment practices, and starting to get to know myself, I started to learn more about nervous system regulation, especially as I was healing my trauma. I did different modalities, went to see therapists, but once I started learning about nervous system regulation, everything started to make sense. So basically what happens is, if we're either living completely centered, which is very rare for people to be in, most people are living in fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, and the center is here. If we're living in fight, flight response constantly, or freeze, fawn, then we're never reaching that middle, centered, grounded place within us. And that's where we really discover that inner peace. And in order to get out of fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, it's actually not an easy journey. You actually need to be aware of your nervous system and what it's doing at all times, first of all, and understand what it feels like to have an unregulated nervous system. And fun fact, constant incessant thinking is and can be a symptom of nervous system dysregulation. So our nervous system can get dysregulated because we've experienced trauma in our lives. So we're stuck in fight-flight response. It can be just the environments that we're in that keep us in a fight-flight response or freeze or fawn. It can be family dynamics and repetitive family dynamics. Once, our nervous systems generally tend to get set at a certain stage in childhood. So if we've experienced childhood trauma, the nervous system gets stuck at, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and stays at that state. And then we start to seek out experiences that match that state. That's kind of where our energy is at, and what we're emitting into the world and what we're attracting to our lives. And once we start to regulate our nervous system, it's a mind fuck. It is crazy, because there comes a stage where you actually become scared, because the world seems so much calmer as you start to take your nervous system down a few notches, or a notch at a time, and you start to regulate yourself. It feels scary because you're so used to chaos and thinking all the time and attracting certain situations into your life, and you're just like, what the hell is happening? This is unfamiliar. So when our nervous systems are stuck at a certain point, we get that feels familiar. So that's why we attract those type of same situations and experiences, and we're constantly thinking it feels familiar. We're like, oh, okay, this feels safe for us because we're kind of used to this. It feels unfamiliar to have peace in our lives. And so that can be such a scary step, because you're like, what is going on? The world is so peaceful all of a sudden. I'm feeling so much peace within myself all of a sudden. And your mind just gets totally blown. You're like, what? What is happening? So there's a thing that a lot of people freak out when they start to regulate their nervous system and go, wow, what is going on? So it's not an easy journey, and in order to achieve that inner peace, you might need to go on a journey of healing trauma, and processing traumas that you've experienced, releasing that energy out of your body. You might need to decondition and deprogram yourself from the ways of the world and the ways of society, so that you can start living your true self. Because I feel like living a life that isn't in alignment with who you really are is a trauma. It keeps us in a state of survival or freeze fawn. It unregulates us. So living our truth and according to who we really are is so important. But we don't really discover what our truth is unless we start to regulate our nervous system, because that's where intuition starts coming. We start to listen to ourselves, the self-defense mechanisms that we've built up, the actions and behaviors that we've created throughout life because of traumas and the way society is structured. We can start to sift through them and push the ones that don't serve us away anymore, and start to heal ourselves and decide how we actually really want to be in this world, and so on. So regulating the nervous system is a journey in itself, and that is the way to inner peace, and also peace within the world. If people realized that doing inner work, healing trauma, learning about nervous system regulation was so important for inner peace, if we started to value inner peace a lot more and started to study how do we actually achieve it, we would value outwardly peace as well. We wouldn't have so many situations of chaos in the world. And I'm not saying that chaos doesn't serve us in some way or another. I think chaos in certain situations can be vital for growth and learning about ourselves and expanding. I think it can be such a beautiful experience to have. But through discovering inner peace, I think a lot of the problems that we do have in the world, such as maybe wars starting, or people being confused about their bodies, or hating their bodies, or trying to be something that they're not, people hurting each other, all that kind of stuff, it would be greatly reduced. And we would, when you do achieve inner peace, when our nervous systems are unregulated, when we're in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, we physically cannot critically think. We're unable to think critically. The only time that we're able to critically think is when we're centered and when our nervous systems are regulated. And that's when we start to think of long-term solutions, when we start to think about community and how our decisions and actions might affect other people. We start to think about, how to lift each other up instead of competing with each other so much. So if we started to put more value on inner peace, we would experience not only incredible changes within ourselves, which I've experienced myself, and I know the clients that I've taken on this journey have started to experience this within themselves as well, and it's an ongoing journey. It changes everything. It changes the way that you interact with yourself. It changes the way that you interact with others. It changes the way that you interact with the world. You have so much more appreciation and gratitude for everything. And, just as I was picking these flowers, thinking about how underrated inner peace is, I was just like, I wish more people could experience this beauty. It is so incredibly beautiful to experience inner peace. And it's like the sun was shining through the flowers, and I started to notice that more. You start to notice the petals and just the colors, and everything becomes more vibrant. And it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's not to say that once you experience inner peace and you regulate your nervous system, you stay in that state. Man, I have flip outs still. I am not perfect, and I don't think anyone really is. I think that, a a lot of therapists say that you just simply widen your window of tolerance for inner peace, for experiencing life, and you can, even through challenges, you're able to handle them in a much more graceful manner most of the time. And yeah, it just, you kind of, a regulated nervous system isn't always staying at one constant level. It's kind of being able to, if you get triggered by something, bring yourself back to center and experience the different states, the survival mechanisms, fawn, flawn, because they're important as well. They're for a reason. Our body has that for a reason, but you're not residing in those all the time when most of the people in the world are in those states. You're kind of residing most of the time in a centered place where you can critically think and think about others. And when you regulate your nervous system, you also get to experience wisdom from the body. Wisdom, once we go on this journey of healing, of being able to regulate our nervous system, we're able to experience and access wisdom. And accessing wisdom is a process of maturation throughout life as well, where you go from that crazy state of constant chaos and being in your head, and then growing up within yourself as you learn to regulate yourself, access your wisdom, and become a grown-up, not just in how your body looks, but from within. A lot of people, unfortunately, are stunted in this adolescent childhood state internally, even though they might look like grown-ups, because they don't know about how important it is to achieve that inner peace and access wisdom and heal trauma and grow up, and that we're capable of it, that it's inbuilt within our bodies. So a lot of the kind of unnecessary chaos, I guess, although I think that everything in the world is perfect and by design in some way or another, but if we're looking just from the human experience, we have created so much chaos in the world, so much competition, so much, we're so off track from being truly aligned with who we really are and living these alternate states of ego, I guess, putting all these masks on and thinking that we should act certain ways instead of being authentic, because we don't know how to access that authenticity, which comes from regulating our nervous systems, healing, connecting to our bodies, all that kind of stuff. Fuck! Just lost my train of thought again. No, it's coming back. It's going to come back. We would be able to create a lot less chaos, unnecessary chaos in the world, I guess, if we all appreciated the process of achieving inner peace and valued inner peace a lot more. But also, in order to achieve inner peace, I think you have to go through a state of chaos. You have to know the opposite of inner peace to go, actually, I would like to experience inner peace. I would love to know what it feels like to just not be in this constant state of all the time. And attracting these experiences in our lives and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's important too. So there's so many different perspectives that we can pull on. That's why I think everything is kind of perfect as well, but that's all a different story. What else? It's It's just that we have access to experiencing a whole new way of being human, and discovering a whole other part of ourselves when we focus on achieving that inner peace and put it high up on our values list. Everything just becomes more settled and calmer. Things in the world make sense. Nature makes sense. Living on this planet starts to make sense. Living in our bodies starts to make sense. You want to attract more wholesomeness into your life. And there's so much more beauty through that as well. You become so much more grounded within yourself. It's just such a beautiful, different experience that we get to have of ourselves. My dog is choking on something. Are you okay? Are you okay, Falky? Good girl. And why wouldn't we want to experience all the different dimensions of ourselves and what we're capable of becoming, or who we're capable of being? Especially after we've been through so much turmoil in our lives and experienced so much of it in the world. Why wouldn't you want to experience more peace from within, and that safety that comes from being in that peaceful state no matter where you go? In Man's Search for Meaning, there's a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's I can't remember the name of the psychiatrist, but it's one of my favorite and most profound books that I ever read. And in it, there was just this one tiny little paragraph where Victor, I can't remember his last name, Victor, who is the author and the psychiatrist who wrote the book, he was in a concentration camp in World War II. And he was observing human psychology in these conditions, even though he was a prisoner himself, and studying what it means to be human in those types of conditions. And in the book he has so much wisdom, but one of the paragraphs that he did put, and it's such a tiny paragraph, was that there were people in the concentration camps that always seemed to radiate this inner peace and could put a smile on their face even though there was so much suffering around them. It's like they found this inner sense of peace. And that always stood out to me, and I was just like, how does that happen? How does that happen? And I feel like it happens through wanting to, learning how to regulate your nervous system, probably being of service to others, I think, because he did mention that they supported other people, and these were prisoners, by the way. They knew they were going to die, probably, or had a good idea of it, and they were suffering just like everyone else. But some people were in complete turmoil, and there was just this small group of people that had found that inner peace within themselves. Viktor E. Frankl, that's the author, and the psychiatrist. Man's Search for Meaning. So it always stood out to me when I thought about that insight that he had. It's how do people under such horrendous, tragic, horrible circumstances as being in a concentration camp. And I've seen, I've been in a concentration camp, gone to visit one in Poland, and I've seen the scratch marks in the gas chambers of the walls of people using their bare fingers to cause these scratch marks in concrete walls, and how deep those scratch marks were when they were being gassed to death. How on earth, in an environment like that do people find inner peace? And that always fascinated me. And when I started going on a journey of healing my trauma, regulating my nervous system, I feel like I have more of an inclination of how they were able to achieve that. And I feel also being of service to others, helping each other, and also being connected to our spirituality. And I don't necessarily mean religion, although people will find their spirituality in all sorts of ways. Finding our connection to the universe or to God, knowing that we're part of something bigger, I think that might be the key. So anyway, in a very roundabout way, I just wanted to completely switch what I was going to be talking about embracing self-growth, which I might do next time if you would like me to, and talk about inner peace, because as I was picking the flowers, they made me think about how beautiful inner peace is, and I wanted to share that with you. And hopefully, put inner peace on the radar for your values. Because I know how beautiful it is to be in tune with yourself, to understand yourself, and to not be constantly thinking and in a state of chaos and attracting certain circumstances into your life. And also, another magical thing that happens with inner peace is that you start to connect to the universe around you more. And once you get down that journey of healing and regulating yourself, you seem to connect to the universe more and manifest incredible experiences and lessons into your life. And things that you never really thought were possible, but I don't know, the universe just tends to give you things that are so aligned with you. Sometimes you didn't even know you needed them. Life just becomes so much more wonderful than you could have ever expected. And it's so special. So special. So I just wanted to share that, because if this triggers something within you, or you're kind of pulled to it and you're curious, like, how can you experience more inner peace, then I definitely encourage you to go on the journey, because it is so beautiful and you absolutely deserve it. I think everyone deserves to experience what inner peace feels like and how your world changes when you do the work, inner work, and actually get there. So I hope this video has been helpful for you today. And I hope the sound is okay as well. And let me know if there's any feedback. I love reading your comments. On the last video with my sister Sorel, I read every single comment, and it's so exciting to see so many comments. And also, I just wanted to share that with that video, it was so raw and vulnerable, where we talked about the process of healing our sisterly love, and we talk about some topics that were so taboo, I guess, and had such a beautiful, real conversation. It actually, I needed to integrate for a week. And there was so much going through me, because I feel like a deeper layer of settling within myself was happening, and realizing what the journey that I've been on in my life, and the family dynamics that were playing out. And I guess choosing to now, feeling the victim, because it's important to feel the victim for a little while. And I'll do a video on that as well. And then being able to come out and take back your power. So that was an incredible process that I went through after posting that video and having that conversation with my sister. And I'm so happy that it hit so many people in the heart and opened you up to new possibilities and expanded you in so many great ways. So thank you for your feedback. It's actually motivated me so much to keep creating and keep sharing my process of healing, and what I'm experiencing in this human life. And yeah, just keep sharing and serving you, I guess. Serving myself. Yeah. I guess. Hope that doesn't come across in a bad way. Yeah. Any comments, anything that you feel that you want to share with me, please post it below. I'll try to answer and get back to as many people as possible. If you have any other future requests on videos, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. And I look forward to reading them. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for nearly 5,000 subscribers, which is amazing. This year is the year of growing my YouTube channel, so I'm really excited to see this growth, because it motivates me. It inspires me to keep going. So I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and for subscribing. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Keep me motivated if you like my content. And I'll see you in the next video. Maybe it'll be on embracing self-growth. Maybe it'll be about embracing your inner victim, or who knows what will come out. I'll see you in the next video. Stay wild.